Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Goodman Games Twitch channel. We are excited to have you join us here tonight for some discussion about the Crypt of the Devil Lich Kickstarter. I'm going to be playing the role of host here tonight. My name is Alex Kurowski, and I am a Twitch streamer over on the channel 20 Sides to Every Story. Our channel, big fans of all things Goodman Games. In particular, we do a lot of playthroughs through a lot of the original adventures reincarnated. But from time to time, we sneak a DCC adventure or a DCC Lankmire or funnel in there as well. If you'd like to check us out, we'd be happy to have you come and check us out live sometime at twitch.tv/20 sides to every story. Or you could check out our backlog of actual plays of all that good Goodman Games content over on youtube.com/20 sides to every story. Tonight, we have a lot of guests here to talk about all the excitement surrounding the Crypt of the Devil Lich Kickstarter. We have the Dark Master himself here, Joseph, and we have who's going to be sharing with us just shortly some exciting information about the new cover art for Crypt of the Devil Lich. And we also have Chris Doyle, who will have some announcements here shortly about stretch goals. So we're looking forward to learning more about that. We have a whole host of guests from the original playtest of the original tournament module who will be introducing you all to very shortly. Get some stories. I'm looking forward to hearing some tales of I don't know, all the torture, I guess, that Joseph put them through in designing this.
The torture went both ways.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. So we're looking forward to having them with us. And we're also we heard you when we did the fifth edition chat that people wanted to talk about the DCC side of things. So we also have Bob and James here with us, and we'll be kind of delving into some of that. And how the conversion is going for the DCC side of the Kickstarter for the project. And so I guess before I pass it off for some announcements at the top of the show here, I'd like to just suggest to you all in the audience there, if you got questions, please do use the Twitch chat to pop those up. We'd love to get some questions from the audience to pose to any of the guests that we have here tonight. So I think with that, I'll pass it off to Joseph to share your news.
Sure. Thanks, Alex. Hi, everybody. We have a lot of exciting stuff to talk about with you tonight, most of it unscripted and hopefully not too embarrassing, but we'll find out soon enough. The first thing I want to show you is the latest version of Doug Kovac's cover art. So Elena, if you could pop that on the screen. I think some of you guys know there was a little bit of a story behind the cover art for Crypt of the Devil Lich. We have the final version of the San Julian cover, which is available as one of the options. And then Stefan Pogue has done a two-tone foil cover that will be available as a cover to the book, or hopefully the stretch goal that we make near the end of this project. But Doug Kovacs is also painting a cover. So what you see on the screen next to me is the latest iteration of this cover. He's been painting it daily and sending in shots of it on my cell phone. So this is the latest version. We're probably a couple days out from it being complete. But as you all know, Doug paints in old school physical media, so there's nothing digital about this. So the first couple updates on the Kickstarter showed, the layers of yellow and orange and a little bit of red that he was laying down. He has to let those dry, then apply the next layers and so on. And it's been coming along great. So we'll keep posting updates over the course of the rest of the Kickstarter. But this is now a cover option that's available on the Kickstarter, and we hope you all like it. And it's a good alternative if you're not as big of a fan of maybe some of the other cover art. So that's the main thing on the cover art front. And now I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk about the Lost Level and a couple other things.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Joe. So I do have a couple of announcements. One, I think that folks are really going to be very interested in. So the first thing I want to announce is we are going to, two of the stretch goals that we smashed through weeks ago, probably at this point, where we were going to create two more sets of pre-generated characters for the adventure, because we assume that you're gonna probably need them. The original Tome of Horrors had 20 characters in them, so we're like, yeah, we should probably have a couple of backups. So and we thought it'd be really cool if the backers could actually help us out via filling out surveys on what one of those pre-generated characters will be, as far as like class and what weapons they'll carry and stuff like that. So stay tuned to the updates. Starting on Sunday, tomorrow, and going through Tuesday, we're going to have a couple of survey questions that we're going to post up there, and the backers themselves are going to be able to participate in actually helping us create one of those pre-gens. Now, right now, the Kickstarter is sitting at about $95,000 and 1,700 backers. If we hit $100,000, and we're pretty sure we're going to do that, the next stretch goal is the Lost Level, which is an entirely new level of the Devil Lich Crypt. So, and we thought it'd be really cool to do just like we did in 2004, reach out to a bunch of different authors, have them each send us their best, most diabolical encounter, and then send them all to me, and then I'll put them together into an entire level, and then we'll include that in the book that everybody will get. So I'm here to announce who those authors are going to be and give you a little bit of a snippet on each of their encounters. And just so you know, Joe doesn't even know who these authors are. So this is going to be a surprise for him as well. So let's get into it. So our first room is going to be designed by my wife, Lisa Doyle. And she was one of the original designers back in 2004. She did one of the encounters, and she's going to be doing a room called the Dark Garden. So, you know, it's really hard to take over the world and, you know, world domination. So even a Devil Lich needs a Zen garden to go to relax. But of course, this Zen garden could very well kill you. So probably not a good thing. And we're very excited to say that there's an amazing homage to a certain Knights of the Dinner Table strip, where there was the Knights of the Dinner Table attacking a gazebo. We will have a gazebo in this encounter, and it will attack back. So
okay, good.
Throwing that out there. So encounter number 2 is by Mihailo Tesik. He is one of our 5e freelancers, and he is going to be creating the Hallway of Crimson and Silver, heavily inspired by the Tome of Horrors Mist Room. You folks probably know what that is. Encounter number 3 is going to be designed by Joe Rasso. He is one of our 5e freelancers as well, and his chamber is called the Chamber of Writhing Purity. I'm just going to leave that out there right there. Our 4th room is going to be designed by Brian McKenzie, and it's called the Lich Queen's Gambit. So if you guys remember, back in 1st edition, there was always a chess room somewhere. Well, the Devil Lich is now going to have a chess room, so we're excited about that. Encounter number 5 is going to be designed by none other than Mr. Bob Brinkman, who's doing our 5e conversion to DCC RPG.
You know, I heard that Bob is not just smart, but also handsome.
I've heard that as well, and I heard he can sing too, and that if you guys ask really nicely, maybe he'll sing a shanty for you later on. So stay tuned for that. Encounter number 6, I got to make sure I get the title of this one right. The Hall of Barbarous Bifurcation. And this is going to be designed by Rick Maffei. A lot of you folks know who Rick is. He worked on Temple of Elemental Evil with myself. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I've already seen concepts for most of these. Is great. Of course, now room number 7, I had to get in on the action on this. I couldn't be left behind on this. So I thought I'd do something really cool. So I'm actually going to design an encounter with my son, Alec. He was 6 months old back in 2004 when we designed the first Crypt of the Devil Lich, and then he was one of my 5e playtesters a couple of months ago. He came to me with a great idea. He said, you know, Dad, you know, a Devil Lich wouldn't have a wine cellar, but she'd definitely have a blood cellar, especially because she's got vampires that she needs to feed. And I took that, and then going on our walks, we fleshed out the entire encounter, and it's going to be phenomenal. And I have one more room to announce. We are going to have a room by Harley Stroh, and he is going to create a room called Mommy Dearest. And I'm telling you right now, it will be the finale of the Lost Level, and it's going to be amazing. I'm just going to leave it at that. So that is the details on the Lost Level designers. So if you guys have any awesome comments on that, you know, fill them up in the chat. We'll probably post this list in an update coming up as soon as we break 100,000, so people can actually refer to it. So that's all I got. We have a lot of exciting content tonight. It's going to be a fun time. So with that, I'm going to say everybody enjoy, and thanks a lot for supporting the Kickstarter.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. So now we're going to have a chance here. We're sitting around the table. It's 2004, and we are with the original playtest crew that Joseph played and tested out a lot of this material. I imagine, obviously, like playtesting is really important for any content that you're going to publish. And I imagine even more so maybe for a tournament module that's going to be played before players and scored in a scenario like you had at Gen Con. So I'm wondering, Joseph, so your playtest group, why don't you introduce some of the folks here? And it'd be interesting to hear what characters did each of them play?
Yeah, so it's really important in a playtest to utilize the best players nationwide, so you can really get people who are going to find every single trap and so on. Unfortunately, I had to settle for my brother and high school friends. So, so anyway, allow me to introduce them all. Sorry, guys. So I don't know what order they are in the screen, but there's my brother, Mike Goodman, there in the green shirt. Maybe Mike.
Can I just mention, actually, younger and better looking brother.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to mention that. Sorry. Yes, there's my younger and better looking brother. He's also smarter too, just to say it. And he smells better, but you can't tell. And then there's Alan, who's somewhere on the screen. Many of you may have met Alan at the Goodman Games booth at Gen Con. He goes by Crystal on Friday nights, which we'll talk about on another stream later on.
Those are fried chicken nights, by the way.
Okay. Then we have Garrick Andrus, who's in the dark. What's up, Garrick?
Sir Garrick Andrus.
Sorry, Sir Garrick Andrus. Stephen Burt, who's wave to the camera, Stephen, so everybody can see you. He's the respectable one in the group. And then we have Stephen Palliser and
the unrespectable Stephen.
Yeah, the others. We just call him the other Stephen. But so, how's it going, guys? So I think we're supposed to talk about pre-gens. Who wants to go first? You guys did play this adventure, right?
I remember being late and I got just like handed the leftovers, which I got to be the paladin, which ended up being awesome for me. I had a great time playing her.
Tell us what you remember about her. Lady Varen, right?
I had a talking sword, so I could like just go to the sword and ask it what to do, and I was able to go from there. It helped out a lot.
Cool. And actually get some background. So we all played this back in 2004. Seems like it took, I don't know, a month or two of play every Thursday night is what
we
I
were
remember.
very slow.
We are not
checks out
fast.
slow.
We are not fast.
We are not
So just to say it, the people at Gen Con did the whole module in 12 hours.
That sounds about right. We were definitely an order of magnitude slower than any tournament player.
Indeed.
Right.
That's true. But as the playtesters, there were a lot of kinks and challenges that we had to work through.
Right.
We really
In
had to
fact-
help this guy out.
We basically
welcome.
wrote it along the way.
They're welcome that they could get through it in one Gen Con, because that's because of us, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it weren't for us, they'd be toiling for months and months and
Right.
months. And then would fall into a pit of lava and die.
I'll tell you guys, the first draft was not pretty.
It was actually just
Oh,
stick
God.
figures, like stick figures just drawn on like some swords. A lot of
In fact,
stickers.
speaking of first draft, there's been some debate amongst us about a particular line.
Mhm.
Can I bring this up now? Is that
I don't know. You probably should have brought it up before the
Please do.
show, but since you
Please
already brought it
do.
up, maybe
Okay,
just
first
bring
of
it
all,
up.
I was the gnomish bard. That's what I was. So I know that was our assignment. What did we play? I was
Good
Melvin.
job. You get an A. You remember
I did
from
that.
2004.
But yeah, more
It was tough.
spiritual than olfactory. Was this an actual line that came from Devil Lich?
Yes, because when we cracked open a certain chamber, our noses were assailed by a
stench.
horrific stench. And when we inquired further, we found that we were chilled all the way to our souls because the odor was more spiritual than olfactory.
It's a great line.
It's a great line.
It's really stuck with us our entire lifetime.
Clearly.
Our
We still
entire
quote it to
lifetime.
one another all the time.
It's amazing.
Under what circumstances do you quote that, Garrick?
I'm
Well,
not.
we're
I'm
not
not
sure if it made it into the final cut. Did it make it into the final
I
cut?
think,
No, it did
I
not.
think Joey cut it out. I think he couldn't handle the pressure of that line
All right,
being
hold
in
on.
print.
Let me write this down. Clearly,
Yeah,
we have to
I
make sure this
think-
goes in.
I'm
A
just saying.
stench. A
Maybe that was me
saying-
improvising. Maybe that was like my great,
Yeah,
improvisation.
that might have been an ad lib, but I'm just saying, a lot of the good stuff made it to Gen Con, but there was some cutting room floor stuff that we think should have made it.
Well, the
Because,
fact
yo,
that we
so I was
laughed
looking
so
at the
hard at
module.
that.
I was
We
looking
were
at
like-
the module, the original module, because there's one of the rooms, the flaming hallway says, as you approach the end of the hall, the cloying stink of overly sweet perfume is very strong. I think that's like the one section that talks about a smell. And I think that's the proof that you cut a stench more spiritual than
you have
olfactory
evidence.
out.
Where
But-
you
but
were a
wait.
coward, Joey.
Yeah.
Where you were a
Wait,
coward.
You couldn't
Alan
face
Fishman?
the stench.
Who was your
Spiritual
character,
stench.
Alan?
What?
Who was your character?
I believe I was the monk.
Brother Jaro.
Yep. He was the monk. He was
Yes,
the favored
that's-
son. Alan, the favored son, gets the best pre-gen.
Why does everybody remember the monk? Everybody remembers the monk.
I remember the monk did wind up with his nose in the stuff more
In the stuff.
more than everyone else. Like he was always on point.
Yeah.
He was always taking the lead and really getting into it. Because I played a Greege who had to handle most of the healing. And when people were down to 0 strength, I had to use a wand so that they could feel their legs again and keep adventuring.
I don't think my strength was high to begin with. I don't
Yeah.
think my strength.
The Gnomish bard, really?
Yeah, I was not. Yeah, I was not. There for that.
And my favorite thing about playing a Greege was when the things were getting really hot, using my catchphrase, "It's time to get egregious."
That's pretty good.
This is retcon. This is retcon. I'm not going to stand for this.
So in the publisher's note that you wrote in the original, Joseph, I think you made mention of that wand of bull strength. I think it was came up in your remarks there. You also made a remark about at Gen Con you were disappointed that there weren't more players that died. Did you not get your fill during the playtest?
I mean, my experience may have been colored by the playtesting group, which perhaps
We died.
Okay, there were some character deaths.
Right.
But the thing is I think he was disappointed that we died so late. He wanted, I think, a lot more early death, because I think a lot of us made it. That's the thing is we might have been bull strengthing our way to actually walk in there, but we technically made it to some of the later rooms.
I don't think Chilichia saw the next day.
Yeah. Oh.
oh, snap!
No, indeed.
So what I
A
remember,
dub is a dub, is what I'm saying.
I seem to recall, weren't you calling the bull strength? Wasn't that the wacky stick? What was?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Let me get a hit of that wacky stick, because you all had 0 strength, and somebody was being dragged in a burlap sack. That's mostly my memory.
The burlap sack. I just remember everything was burlap sack based. Is the thing I remember.
So useful.
The Dark Master may have let us stretch the boundaries of what a burlap sack could do because he wanted to test the rest of the room.
Yeah. He's he wanted to see some of the other rooms get executed, because in a lot of if he were to run it in a very tightly run, we wouldn't have made it as far as we did, I think.
My recollection was that you guys, to get into the final encounter, 2 or 3 of you had 0 strength and needed the bull strength wand to just to move. And I feel like somebody was completely paralyzed or something and hauled around in a burlap. Actually, Stephen Pellitzer, that might have been you. Weren't you in a burlap sack?
I think I'm pretty sure towards the end I was in the sack that the monk was carrying around. Or something.
Right. I think only 3 of us actually could walk by the time we got to the Devil Lich.
Yeah.
And most of us were the ones that died.
Yeah, I definitely died.
Tell us about your death, Crystal.
There's debate.
I
There's
remember
debate on this.
I remember I did something very cool first before I died.
What initiative?
I feel like I did a lot of damage to the Devil Lich, but she could not be felled by me, and then she promptly fireball me and I died immediately. That's what I think happened. But I think Bert has another story.
Yeah.
Right. I thought I remembered him running up the chain, which was actually illusionary, and you were like, yes. And you're like, it was illusionary. He was saved. And then he didn't save, and he ran up the illusionary chain and fell into the lava.
That actually sounds really familiar. I think I'm gonna go with that.
See, and that's the
And
thing.
it does sound
Alan says it's
familiar.
something else, but I'm like,
It
Steven
does sound
Burt is
familiar,
the
but
main one with
in my
memory.
head, I was one-shotted by like a fireball. I don't
Maybe
know.
that was the
feel like you
lava.
might
I mean,
have
they look similar up close.
True. As I was getting closer and closer to the lava, it looked like a fireball was getting closer and closer.
Actually,
Flew
we
into the
told
fireball.
you it was a fireball as you were falling in, just to make you feel better.
You did a good job.
Yeah,
That's what we told your widow. It was a fireball.
yeah, it was a fireball. Yeah.
We did get fireballed, but I'm pretty sure you were already dead by now.
Well, I was happy to help.
So Stephen Burt, you're the one person in this group who has a good memory.
He is.
So tell us what you remember from
He really
16 years ago.
Well,
Oh.
now he's gonna say the Valiant Way, the Paladin,
Yeah,
with the
of
Valiant
course.
Paladin move.
Right.
Go
So
ahead, Stephen.
I removed the wizard from the burlap sack and like shook it and got him to cast flight on me. And then I flew up and actually grappled with the Devil Lich. Because we were just getting pounded from the air and we couldn't get to it. We were trying to some shots at it from the ground. But I grappled, and I can't remember actually if I had the mage turn flight off and I just fell into the lava, or if I flew into the lava. That was our way to beat the Devil Lich, was a kamikaze move by the paladin.
I remember it as somehow you dispelled like you were hugging Chilichia tight and you dispelled the flight, sending you both into the lava.
Right.
That's the way I remember it.
I think the
blocked
mage
out
had to
any
turn it off, I'm not
heroic
sure.
Stephen Burt moves. I blocked that
Right.
out, so I can't contribute to this.
Like, a paladin is a consumable that you bring into the dungeon to expand on situations like
Yes.
that.
So I see it as
Mark
I see
off
it
your
as
paladin.
we activated our paladin
right.
and completed.
Where was your
Completed.
horse, Bert? Where was the paladin's horse?
Oh
That's
yeah, I
right.
did want to summon the horse right off the bat. Joey's like, no.
He was really mad. He was. Stephen Burt was.
I was like, I
mad
went
the
home and read all about
entire-
paladins.
The
and you can't
entire
take my
module.
horse.
The entire module.
That's right. I sort of remember that too.
So
He was like, it's one of my things.
So the point about the line being removed, about the scent, okay, point taken. But I'm wondering from the actual playtest, were there's things that actually from the playtest significantly changed something that came out in the outcome of the final product. Something that one of the players did here that made you say, okay, I got to rethink this and make some alterations.
My brother remembered something that was very critical. Tell me what you remembered, Mike.
One thing is nowhere in the module have I seen any requirement that fried chicken be served while playing, because Alan bought a deep fryer when we would be over there every Thursday night or whatever it was, and so it always smelled like chicken. And it was fantastic. It was like playing at a KFC. And I feel like that really adds a lot to the game. And it's unfortunate that that's not part of the module anymore.
I think we're
Chicken
cooking up
set
new
was
ideas
more
for.
spiritual than old fashioned.
I think we've got a new stretch goal here.
An
Free
entire
chicken.
olfactory theme that's missing here.
If we hit 175K, every backer gets a bucket of KFC.
Fried chicken.
Free with adventure. You got to clean off your own grease stains though, because we're not paying for shipping twice.
We did not solve a lot of the puzzles. I'll say that just up
We
front.
just tried to skirt around
Yeah,
them.
I don't think we really pushed the envelope on a lot of the puzzles. I think we found more of the how can you make it, what are the ridiculous things they're gonna do that's gonna derail this whole module type of thing.
It's
That's what
actually
I think
amazing.
that's
It's amazing it turned out as well as it did, given the playtesting.
Given the quality of the playtesting.
There were so many puzzles, and we were just like, I don't know.
Right. There's a lot of begging to the talking sword. All right, how do we get through this one?
Yeah, the talking sword. Yeah, the intelligent sword was actually the main player character, I think.
I think
So-
you did great.
Garrick, tell us your strongest memory, Sir Garrick.
It's time to get egregious.
Anything else? Anything else?
I remember I remember being deep. I remember the sword, obviously playing a very central role. Like I remember the sword itself is one of the main characters I remember, because there is some plot twists involving the blade. I don't know if I'm allowed to discuss, but the sword was scary, and it was with us the whole time. So, we didn't trust it. We did trust it.
And the paladin loved that thing, man. The
No,
paladin
that
loved
was a different sword.
Oh, he's hanging up.
My sword didn't like that sword.
Oh, that's right. The two swords didn't like each other.
Right.
Yeah, that's awkward.
That's
awkward.
It was like my sword ran into its X or something, like on the middle of the module.
Wasn't yours married to a dagger or something?
That's right. No, I think you threatened to turn it into a dagger or something at one point, and it got all mad at you, something like that. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Complex relationships of sentient weapons.
Yes.
Stephen Burt, luckily Stephen Burt's, my external hard drive, who remembers everything, said that that he brought up one thing that happened at the very beginning, that after he said it, I was like, that does sound familiar, is us burning up a bunch of loot on the first encounter, because the wizard torched a ghoul or something.
Right.
And,
he went for the double tap.
Yeah. And then burned up. I just remember
items. His double tap being fire blast.
From the story was how pleased you were that we burned up a bunch of items.
Right. It was like one of those, are you sure you're gonna burn it?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Are you doubly sure? And he laughed at us and told us what happened.
You smell the spiritual odor of healing potions cooking in the inferno.
Right. I was like, I do remember that. I do remember my disappointment. Yeah. Good times. Good times.
I do remember the good times. I remember just sitting around that giant table you guys had, and it was, that was back in the era where nobody ever cleaned that house, so we could just kind of leave everything out there, and a week later it'd still be there on the table, including the food, and you could just kind of
that was all that table was used for. There was no meals taken there or anything.
Yes, it was fun.
Well, this has been fun to hear all these stories. I'm sure there are many more that, unfortunately, just due to the time, we can't hear them all. But thank you all for coming on here tonight and sharing some of those.
Alex, can I just say one thing? Sorry.
Absolutely.
Just so that folks in the chat know, Joey actually paid me $20 to wear this shirt. So
damn it, don't ruin the illusion.
If I pay you $20, will you take it off?
I think you gotta go higher than that, Crystal.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I got. Sorry.
Crystal is always going there.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, I know. You've opened the box.
So with that, I think we're going to maybe go on standby for a second. We have more to come. We have Bob Brinkman and James Spahn with us to talk a little bit about the DCC side of the Crypt of the Devil Lich. And so just a moment, we're going to switch over and begin that conversation. I guess before we pop off here, please do put any questions that you have about the project, about the Kickstarter, and we'd love to get answers to your questions. So please pop those in the chat,
including favorite flavor of fried chicken, because there's more than one. We're gonna need to know that.
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're here talking about the Crypt of the Devil Lich Kickstarter. We did one of these a couple weeks back, talking about the 5th edition side of the equation, but now we've got the team heading up the DCC side of the conversion, and so we're looking forward to having hearing a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes here. Once again, feel free to put any questions that you have in the Twitch chat, and I am more than happy to forego any questions that I've prepared. You could make my job a little bit easier by coming up with a few of your own. But I think as we start this off, so we have both Bob Brinkman here and James Spahn. Maybe I could just have both of you introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about, just in case we've got some people out there that aren't familiar with your work, tell us a little bit about your previous work. And yeah, let's start first with you, Bob.
Sure. Well, I'm Bob. I worked on a Mutant Crawl Classics, DCC Lankmar, DCC Dying Earth, and on the 5e side, I had the opportunity to work on a little bit of Castle Amber, and I've written a couple 5th edition fantasy adventures for Goodman. I've done some third-party stuff. I'm on the Sanctum Sanctorum podcast and done a lot of writing for that. And my wife is Judge Jen, so really that's all you need to know. Because everybody knows Jen.
Awesome. And James.
I've not done anything for Goodman, maybe one day, I don't know. But I'm James Spahn. I'm mostly known in DC circles for being really loud and really obnoxious when it comes to road crew games. I run Barrel Rider Games, and I've freelanced for the One Ring First Edition, the One Ring Second Edition, Star Wars, Legend of the Five Rings, Genesis System, just a bunch of freelance work over the past couple years. And to be frank, I came to Bob and was like, dude, do you want help playtesting this? And he's like, yes. And yet he still drives himself into absolute insomnia, even with, a playtest sidekick. So he was gracious enough to let me help him playtest, and I'm having a blast doing it.
Very cool. So I guess the first thing I want to ask about is just like to talk a little bit about maybe like the concept of tournament modules. I know myself, I've never actually played one I played tournament modules, but I've never played in a tournament. One of the ones that I really enjoyed was this one here, Vault of the Dragon Kings. I played it. Didn't play it as a tournament though. Just enjoyed it for the content. So maybe this is a good question for you, Bob. Just kind of walk us through what makes a tournament module. What sets it apart from other types of adventures that you might write?
Well, the tournament modules sort of stem from the very old original Gen Con AD&D tournaments. And they weren't just a challenge of how your dice were going to roll. They weren't just a challenge of how good your character was. They're really a test of the player. How sharp are you? What are you going to think of? Because all the dice in the world don't matter if you say, touch that sphere of annihilation, which my group did in my first AD&D tournament that I played in, one at a time, thinking it was a portal. So it really is all about that and the competition then, because you're scoring points, you're in direct competition with other players. It's not just bragging rights for having gotten through an adventure, it's having gotten through an adventure and done better than another group. And my playtest group got to room 7 last night, James, so I'm just saying that right now.
Mine got to room 2. But they managed to almost kill themselves in the process. Wait, that doesn't help. I want to speak. This is kind of a side thing. When the Kickstarter launched, I heard a little hubbubalub about people like, oh, it's just converting to DCC. It's just a conversion. It's not a real DCC thing. And that bugged me because from the jump, the title, the evocative nature of it, the like over the topness of it, I was like, yes, this is totally a DCC thing. I am 100% on board for this. Yes, yes, yes. So like running it as something that was converted from 5e to DCC, both which are great systems, DCC is a lot more swingy. So it's really hard to take into account how far the pendulum will swing, especially with 7th level characters. I mean, when I read through the playtest documents, I was like, this thing's a meat grinder. It's going to eat them alive. And nope. The first, are we allowed to, I don't know, should we speak to any spoilers, Bob? I don't know if I should or not.
Well, from what the original playtest group was going, I don't know how much we could spoil. So
fair. Okay. One of the first encounters you have is with a monk, who is right kind of in the main entrance area. And it's a vampire monk, and he's trying to lure the characters in and, bushwhack them and all that stuff. And there's a connection between the monk and one of the pre-gens to kind of create a relationship before they ever meet. So it's very well written. And I love that there was a role-playing connection, because role-playing is part of tournament modules. To me, being able to successfully interact with an NPC to get a better outcome is just as valuable as being able to puzzle solve. So this vampire monk lures them in, and they get up there, and he falls back into the darkness. And the players won't fully step into the cave. They'll just get right on the threshold. So the vampire monk, being all super fast ninja quick, runs up and immediately tries to mesmerize Sir Jaro and fails his roll. The PCs go, the elf drops a hastes everybody around him except the vampire. Sir Jaro grabs the vampire and hastes straight out of the cave to the stalagmites, yes, that are described all around the entrance on the ground, and straight suplexes him onto one of the stalagmites to stake him. So they took this crazy powerful and just dusted him like nothing. And then when they got to the next room, they literally pulled out a crowbar and went, "We test every square. We test." I'm like that. To me, it was such a player thing. And when you play test, players do weird, crazy player stuff. And in a system like DCC, you need these play tests because you never know how extreme things can go from one end to the other, and make sure the module can handle that.
And the players never know if something goes really well for them in one room, the next room is still just as potentially lethal as the first was.
That was my experience. That's why they only got to the second room. They opened the door, and the tomb haunts came down because they shined a bullseye lantern up at them. And it never says that they won't come down, but I was like, that's disturbing them. They're going to come down. And my players are all bottlenecked in this tiny 10-foot wide hallway that's 50 long. They're all there. And the tomb haunts are just walking towards them. And what the players don't know, and I got permission to spoil, so let's go with it, is that the tomb haunts just want to leave. It's like being at a timeshare. You just want to get out and go on vacation. So the players immediately think they all draw their weapons. So the first tomb haunt, mollywops the dwarf in the front who fails his save. When you fail your save, the tomb haunt the player who failed their save immediately turns around and attacks somebody. So the dwarf turns around and crowns the wizard, drops him in one shot because it's a 7th level character. I mean, it was just squick. So then the initiative is now rolled. The elf who was throwing haste down left, right, and center goes color spray, maximum effect, drops his entire party. Color sprayed his entire party on incorporeal undead. So the spell has almost no effect on the actual undead creatures.
That brings up something that my both of my parties last night learned when they were looking at the fact they've got high spell check bonuses, and now they've been blessed, and these bonuses are getting higher and higher, and the casters are going to cast and wait, if I max this out, I think you're all going to die.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden it became we have grown too much in power too quickly, and we need to scale back, or maybe we just have to run. And that was a real interesting dynamic to see play out. So,
coming around to talking about playtesting, that is something that I thought about a little bit. The design assumptions of 5e and DCC are so different, right? You've got these things, these situations are kind of a something kind of unique. I guess my question really is like, when you're playtesting DCC content, are there different questions that you're asking? Is there like kind of a different lens that you're using as you're trying to refine this content?
There are. I think that for our conversion, we were very fortunate that, I mean, Goodman Games has a particular design aesthetic, right? The original Devil Lich adventure, if it had been statted for DCC, nobody would have blinked twice. It's a DCC style adventure.
Mhm.
And so we have that aesthetic as a baseline, but then you run into things like, well, DCC is more old school. We don't have monks, we don't have paladins. So just coming up with ways to balance the skill sets that those characters brought to the party, so that DCC players are going to get a similar experience playing this, becomes very important. And while a 7th level DCC character is easily as powerful as a 16th level D&D counterpart, they have 7 hit dice, not 16. So while they've got this massive power, they're also a lot squishier. And so you have to sort of balance that. You can't just say, well, the 5e creature does this much damage, so the DCC creature does the same amount of damage, because that doesn't work. You have to kind of scale things and look at, as James was mentioning, how swingy things can get, and plan for those upswings without requiring them for survivability.
I get, you brought up the piece about, you know, in DCC you've got kind of race as class. You know, that must be kind of an interesting thing to try to figure out, especially if you're going to keep these same personalities of these characters and bring them into DCC. How does that work? How have you been managing that?
Well, especially since having read through the material, these were originally people's characters, right? You know, and so I wanted to convert them and stay as true to what those people had played those characters to be as possible. So, for example, the paladin became the cleric because she's a warrior priest. So she went from, you know, she went from being a paladin to essentially the mother superior. She's a very powerful cleric. The original cleric was a dwarf, and so I was balancing whether, well, should he be a cleric or should he be a dwarf? I figured I'd stay true to dwarf because, again, there's potency there. The monk, which was originally Brother Jaro, is now a warrior, and he's a warrior with a very high dexterity who can 2-weapon wield. So he has that monk-like ability to get in there, to have those rapid attacks, but doing so in a DCC possible framework.
Credit to your design, but the guy played him like a monk, like grabbing him and running him out in the sun super fast and slamming him on. Like he's like, this guy reads like a martial artist, and I was like, yep. And he played him that way, so it comes through. I mean, and we talked about it because we talked about occupations on the cheats and why different things were done. It's clear that, though I will argue to the nines, this is as much a DCC module as it is a 5e module, it is still very much true to its source material and respectful of it. And I think that's important. And I'm not just saying that because the other players who originally played these people are, you know, were just on, you know, 5 minutes ago.
And I'm going to be running for him in like 2 weeks. Yeah, there's but the other thing to look at is magic items are very, very different between D&D and DCC. And I'm looking at these character sheets where it's, you know, magic, you know, +2, +2, +1, this, that, and there's this long litany of magic items. And DCC magic items are very different, and that allows for a lot of those things to be combined in, you know, one empathic sword or one telepathic mace. And so the wizards have wizard staves that have powers and spells. So the characters still have a lot of similar capabilities, but we've done it DCC style. And I, for one, think it's a better way to go. So yeah, Chris.
So now that we know what maybe we got the announcement at the top of the hour of some of the authors of maybe some of the bonus content that we'll hopefully get once we cross the $100,000 threshold. So we better do some selling of that a little bit. Bob, I'm wondering, can you share some of your early thoughts? What are you thinking? Can you give us a?
I'm gonna skip right past the lost level, and I'm gonna go straight to, come on guys, we really need to do the Devil Lich as patron. I've already got patron spells in the works. She is terrifying, and she makes Ezercon kind of look like a fluffy bunny. And I really want to get that out there.
So along those lines, any new spells that you're starting to think about?
In DCC, there's already 2 different runic alphabet spells. They're sort of the DCC equivalent to glyphs for D&D players. And of course, the Devil Lich has to have an infernal runic alphabet, which is a 4th level wizard spell that goes all the way up to 36 on the spell results, and none of those results are friendly. We've also, because of trying to tie in with the D&D counterparts, there are spells that are just really classic, just like there's monsters that are really classic that aren't in DCC. And so we now are going to have a DCC version of Prismatic Wall. And it's not something you want to run blindly into, and it's something that needs a lot of thought. It is almost a trap as well as a spell, and there's more to come.
So playtesting was kind of big topic here tonight. And I know, Bob, you've got what you said, your first playtest right after the show here.
Well, I've been confusing my days. So my first playtests were last night. I did one from 9 to 1 and one from 2 to 6 this morning. And then I leave this live stream and go directly to my third playtest.
And James, you've had, it sounds like at least a time or two that
I've got one under my belt. I'm planning one tonight. But all my players are maybes, so I might be throwing things out there to the DCC Facebook community looking for last minute playtesters. Because I never trust a maybe. Life happens, and that's totally understandable. So I may have some late minute slots open up. Please, I would love for you to come and let me kill your character.
Okay, so an open call there. So we're getting closer to the end of the program here. If there's any last minute questions, please do pop them out in the chat. But I think as kind of a wrap up here, I'd love to hear notable moment that each of you has experienced thus far in your play tests.
You want to go first? Well, James, you already gave a couple good ones. Do you have something left to share?
There was one when they walk into the rotating room for the first time. And the guy steps on the plate and it immediately starts the process. And I said, and it smells faintly like almonds. And you saw him go, and you could I saw Sal's face just drop. And the entire party's on the other side of the door. So they're like, well, with the room rotating, we picked the next lock. We picked the next. I was like, it's not moving like that. And he said, well, I'm 7th level. And I said, that's fair enough. You can search a door as it passes, but you can't search and pick the lock. So as the doors cycle around, they set off every trap on every door. I mean, it was ugly. If not for them making almost every save, they'd have all died. And by the time they got the door open, he's laying there dead. It was just like, well, that was for nothing. So
and see, now that's funny because I had a very similar experience here. There's an aroma of burnt almonds in the air, and one of the players just stopped and said, excuse me, as a chemist, that has a lot of really scary connotations. Can I make a skill check? Like, I don't know if you're going to need to. I think you've sort of figured out the problem here. I had a wonderful moment last night. I mean, again, these are high-level DCC characters, so they're running under a maximum result. Bless, they've got +8 to hit, damage, skill checks, saving throws. They've got a maximum effect spider climb going. They go up this wall, they're going over. And when the anti-magic hit and they all plunged 50 feet to the ground with all of that spell protection gone, it was a real game changer. So,
Yes.
and it's again, it's that thing. These are very powerful characters, but all it takes is one misstep and people start to die. And that's the fun part.
Well, thanks, Bob. Thanks, James, for sharing a little bit of the kind of what's going on behind the scenes to make sure that all this content is solid when it comes out. Some of this is still, folks out there in the audience, be sure to check out the Kickstarter. Some of these things, we still have a few stretch goals to meet. I think that next one, I think we're getting close. So go and check that out. Any final thoughts?
Patron.
Yes,
yes.
we want to see that.
Thanks for having us on. It's nice. I know a lot of people a lot of the DCC players have been wondering why there hasn't been more DCC discussion on the Kickstarter. And part of it is because we've just been so entrenched in making sure that we get this conversion right. I mean, Chris gave us a great set of tools with the 5e conversion, which set a really nice framework to work from. But it's all about getting it right. And so that's really what we've been focused on. So it's nice to have a chance just to get out here and say, yes, you're covered. We've got this. DCC is covered, and we're not an afterthought.
My hope is that someone who doesn't know it started as a 3E product that got converted to 5E and only knows of it in a DCC identity would never think that it came from another source. This was always DCC. It was obviously never came from a conversion. And I think that's what it's going to be, so.
Well, thanks again, Bob. Don't go easy on your players as you go off to your play test.
Oh, never. We've been learning things.
Thanks everyone out there in the audience. Thanks for sticking through and watching. And I see that there was a lot of questions that were thrown around, and it looks like most they got answered in the chat. So and through our conversation here. So with that, I think we're going to jump offline here. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.